Hiya, folks. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Magic Key Chats. Yep. I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm Amanda.
And to all who come to these magical chats, welcome. Oh, I got myself on the goofy voice.
Don't do the whole podcast that way, because then I would just start laughing.
No.
Welcome, everyone. We're really excited for another episode. And today we are going to talk a little bit about the Disney magic that comes from all the different fun things that they do at the park. We've kind of talked a little bit about one of the reasons we love going to Disneyland and why we decided to become pass holders is just the Disney magic, right? Whatever that means. So we're going to talk about like what that means and like when I say Disney magic, Ryan, like how would you describe Disney magic?
As I was thinking about this topic over the last few days, was what separates the Disney parks from just any other theme park? Like, what really makes it stand out from just going to a Universal or going to a Six Flags? Like, what, the real thing that makes it Disney? And I've thought about some of my own opinions on what it is, and interested to hear what yours are as well.
I think I think it really boils down to the small, tiny details. And that's everything. That's not just Disneyland. That any great company, any great experience you have in any consumer environment is really those small little details that make you feel special or like you said, sets it apart. Then I can't get this experience anywhere else. Versus like you can go to a no-name brand theme park, a state fair, whatever, and a lot of them might look similar. And what's going to set one amusement park aside from another. And I think over the years, Disneyland has done a really good job about it. And there are just so many things. I mean, we probably won't even get to all of the amazing things we could talk about when it comes to what creates Disney magic. But I thought it would be a fun conversation just to start the conversation of what are those things that set apart Disneyland from all those other theme parks. So what were some of the things you said you thought a lot about it this week? What were some of those things that came to your mind?
So I think the main thing that I thought was what really sets apart the parks from other parks is the employees themselves, the cast members, and the fact that from the beginning, when you're a Disney employee, they don't call you just ride operator and this and that. Like, you are a cast member. You are working on a stage. To them, it is all a production, and it really shows in the way that they train their employees. I've heard some horror story stuff about things in the beginning days, but the way that the cast members treat the guests and how they really make it like a show, like a production. It's not just I'm coming to work, I'm operating this ride, or I'm selling this snack at the park. Like, you are really part of a giant production.
Yes.
Well, that's, to me, and I'll go a little bit further on it as we talk here. But that was the biggest one for me out of everything I thought of. The smells, the way they theme their rides and everything. I think the biggest thing, in my opinion, is the cast members themselves, the employees.
Yeah, I remember the first time that I heard that like they're called cast members, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I was like, that's amazing. I agree with you about, I mean, all of it, right? Like the experience that you have interacting with the cast members, the standards that the parks set for their cast members, or the way that you're expected to interact with the guests. I thought was so cool. And I mean, I'm a leadership nerd. I'm a Walt Disney nerd. I anything that comes to, like leadership development training I get super excited about in general. And when you mix that with like how well of a job they do that at the Disney parks, it's even more exciting to me. So I will say that's one of the things. Because so let's talk about that. Like let's talk about what that looks like for people who may not have experienced the parks yet, or the cast members, or may not have paid attention to it. I think it'd be fun to talk a little bit more specifically on this topic before we get onto other Disney magic items. But is there something that really resonates with you when it comes to how the cast members interact with the guests at the park?
Yeah, like with any company, anywhere you go, an employee that you interact with can really make or break your day, whether it be for good or worse. And even, my experience in the parks recently, where maybe, yeah, even things I read about, like, oh, this cast member was so rude to me. So, like, it's the one thing that really I see either makes somebody's day or breaks somebody's day, because there's times like, a lot of children in this place, and the way that I don't know if it's still the standard now, and I really hope it is, but I remember hearing, a Disney cast member must go out of their way to make, like, if they see a crying child, a Disney cast member sees that, they have to go out of their way to try to make that child like smile and happy again, like if whether it be like a sticker, a little button, a balloon, what, like they have the power to go make that child's day good again because they want everybody to be happy. Why this one really resonated as like the number one thing for like what really sets the Disney magic apart is because I've noticed a little bit of a influx with some of the employee attitudes at Disneyland and Disney World too, and it might just be more of a generational thing now where where all the companies are kind of dealing with it. I've had really amazing days where I kind of keep to myself in the park, but there are some cast members that will go out of their way to like interact with me. Like I was at Starbucks the other day, just kind of sitting there, drinking my pistachio cold brew, and like literally went out of my way to ask like, how was everything? Like, why am I here? And things you kind of expect it, but it's the language they have to use too, because there are certain things the employees are trained. They have like as a military guy, like we have codes and acronyms in this. They literally have like a whole script of things they have to say and have to do. And like, for example, if a kid throws up in the park, it's like, oh, a child spread pixie dust down on the street over there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, like they can't say dead animal. Like for example, it's one of Mickey's friends is injured. Something like they cannot say like things that sound bad or hurtful. They have like a whole script that I was watching a video the other day that employees have to memorize this script and these terms within the first, I think, 72 hours of their employment. The fact that like they go that far of their way to like basically introduce an entire language to their cast members, because again, it's a production, it's a show. You're not just there showing up to the park and go like they all have rides, they all have snacks and delicious goodness and whatever whatnot, but it's really the difference. Like if I go to like you said, like a standard state fair, is the kid just going to sit there and here's your bag of popcorn, so on and so forth? Or like I go to Disneyland, it's here's your bag of popcorn and have a magical day.
That's my favorite.
There's like another thing too, there's like a kind of fun fact thing. I did not know they cannot point at you with like a one finger. They
Yeah.
have to do like the two finger and like whatever this is.
Isn't that so cool? They have to use 2 fingers.
So that's why out of all the other things that we may talk about being as part of Disney magic, I think the fact that like your best Disney days are like I think when you experience like some really good cast members, and a lot of them do a good job.
Yeah, my favorite is, so I always wear my Sleeping Beauty tiara, which I do not have on right now, but I wear my Sleeping Beauty tiara when I go to the parks, and my favorite thing is when a cast member addresses me as princess or your highness or your majesty, and it's like one time I was sitting, like I was like, it was like an empty day in the park, but I was kind of in the front and the parade was going on and it was like Alice, and like some of the characters will have mics and stuff, and she's like, "Oh, your majesty," and like bowed at me, and like that kind of stuff is just like, it's so, and I'm 34 years old, okay? Like, do I need it in my everyday life? No. Some of my friends might argue and disagree and say, yes, you don't mind being called princess all the time. But it's just like, yes, it's nice. Okay. Like, who doesn't like to be called princess?
Right.
When you're in the parks, it's so cool because you feel seen, where it's like you don't have, like you said, going out of your way, like something that you don't have to do. I mean, I guess they have to do is, and I was like, I'll have days. I told someone, I said, my whole day was like not that great, but you know what? Someone called me princess at the park, so like I'm good. Like it made my day. Just the interaction that you have with the cast members, and like when you wear the buttons, right? Which is another like cool magical thing, is like you can wear like it's my birthday button or I'm celebrating or it's my first visit. And it's so cool because not only is it like, oh cool, like I get to wear this button. And if you don't know, if you go to like the city hall or some of the shops will have buttons. I didn't know this until one time I was with my friend and she's like, "Oh, like it's your birthday, like we got to get you a button." Not only is it cool because like cast members will be like, "Oh, like happy birthday," but like other people at the park, and this is something I do too. If I see someone wearing a like it's my birthday button or whatever, like I tell them happy birthday, and it's like this whole community, which I think is so cool because I've spent 2 birthdays. I spent my 30th at Disney World, and a couple years ago I did one of my birthdays at Disneyland because I had such a great time at Disney World, and I'm wearing my button, and one of the cast members, we were in like Tomorrowland, and I'll never forget this. He like stopped. He's like, "It's your birthday." And like, sing me a birthday song. And he had like one of those bubble blowers, and he was just dancing and singing with me, like celebrating with me. And I was like, "That's so cool!" Like you're not gonna. My friends and family don't celebrate my birthday like that with me. Like it was just, it's again, that like adds to the this quote unquote magic of the parks. And again, it has to do with the cast members and the interactions and like and even just seeing them with like younger kids and you see this with like with the character, the cast members who are characters, and you see all those videos online too of like this kid walking by and like I don't know if I sent this video to you, but one of the rules is like you're not allowed to let go first. So like if you're one of the characters and the kid comes and hugs you, like you're not allowed to let go first. Like they have to let go first. So you hug them until they let go. And again, like that adds to the experience because, like you said, it's a production. This place you go to, and they have a lot of cool things, and they're theming it. Because, like, I've been to places that are very well themed. Like you said, I think you brought up so well with the first point and the most important point being that what sets the Disney parks apart from any other park is the cast members and the interaction and the expectations. Also, speaking of cast members, the other thing that I think is really magical is that Walt Disney was adamant about a clean park,
Yeah. Mhm.
adamant. And, like, that's why, like, you see so many trash cans. I think the rule is, like, I think it's 500 feet. There has to be a trash can within 500 feet of each other, like, at all times. I don't know if it's the same parameters in Disney World because I don't think I experienced that in Disney World, but I could be wrong. But I will say because I remember the first time I was like, wow, there's trash cans literally everywhere." Because the idea is that there's not a lot of dead space where there's not a trash can for trash to be everywhere. But also, there are people all the time, there are cast members whose their job is to sweep up the popcorn. For me, I'm like, "Wow, this is so cool." Like, again, it adds to the experience that, like, you go and you never know and also it creates a consistency of expectation of what you're gonna get when you go to the parks. And I will say that I have seen a little bit of a lack of that vigor with the not necessarily cleanliness of the park, but to the same extent prior to COVID. And I think a lot of that has to do with bringing cast members back and not being fully as staffed as they originally were. Less than we want to have a focus on this, but I mean, I'll make that point because it is there.
Yeah, the those the trash cans, which sometimes become my, dining tables, if you will.
You eat on top of the trash cans.
Oh, yeah, all the time.
This is why you should walk and eat your snack.
Even to the point where I saw there was actually I think it might have been on the Magic Key Facebook group that somebody actually invented like a little picnic blanket and like picnic set for on top of the Disney trash cans. Like it's a thing.
That's hilarious.
And then kind of like onto the button story that you had, which like a whole nother awesomeness. Like a story, like a friend of mine was, it was at Disney World, was getting a button made, and the cast member took the time and didn't just like write the name. It's like, here you go. Like, did they do a design? They make it, they'll add balloons, depending on what your occasion is.
The Mickey balloon, yeah, mine said my name in a really pretty writing and had the Mickey balloon on it, and they, like, took their time.
This like 20 cent button becomes like a memory. And then the fact that you said, yeah, like they intentionally will go out of their way to say like happy birthday or like congratulations on your graduation. For those who do not know, yeah, if you go to any information booth, most of the cast members there will have buttons. Depending on which ones you go to, you might get a little bit more creativity. Some of them will write your name, depending on how busy the day is too. But yeah, that's just another great fun option as well.
Yeah, you're part of the story.
They got to keep the stage clean. It's a stage. He said it's all a production. Walt himself, like the when he envisioned his park, it was he wanted to bring people into the reality of the movies and the pictures he was making. So not only were you watching the pictures in theaters, you were when you came to his park, he wanted you to feel like you were living in this world that he created, that he's doing with movies as well as his theme park and his world.
The idea is that you're part of the story.
And Disney has done a great job at that throughout the years, and maybe some ups and downs in that.
And I know we have slightly mentioned a little few things that we've been irritated with, and there are definitely things that are not high to the standard. And part of that is because we've experienced it at a different level with the Disney Magic, which is why we're making those things. They're not like general complaints about like this is what they need to do better. This is what they suck at. Like that's not the case. The case is that we've noticed that distinction, and a lot of that I think is societal and cultural and based on the times. So it's not to say we're just pointing them out as observations of what we're experiencing. That being said, there's still so much that still makes it so magical. And again, having those cast members who are just engaged in getting into character. Like I love when I go on a ride and they're in character for that ride because first of all, they have to dress in theme with whatever ride. So if they're in Indiana Jones or Pirates of the Caribbean, they're dressed in theme with the ride. And so it's my favorite when there are cast members who are like totally embody the character of the ride. Like not necessarily like Indiana Jones and stuff, but like they're like in character and they talk to you in that way, whether it's in a pirate voice or they especially do a really great job about it in Galaxy's Edge with the Rise of the Resistance, really being in character in every regard. And it's because it's fun, right? Like you setting the stage, but we're being part of the story, and it's a whole experience. It's not like, hey, here's a place to go have fun and have some great snacks and like go on some cool rides, but it's an entire full immersive experience. Like there's just I mean, everything in that park is so immersive. To the music, to the like you mentioned the smells earlier, which we'll talk about. That's probably why I snack so much, let's be honest.
It's intentional.
I smell the sugar. I smell the powdered sugar everywhere.
Which Disney scent that they push out, I think, is your favorite or the most notable? Because to me, it's the popcorn. Like I'm not a huge popcorn guy, but every time when I walk right through the gate, and then like the first smell I smell like without hesitation is the buttery popcorn,
Yeah.
and I'm never like, oh, I gotta go get popcorn. But every time it's like, huh, maybe I do want popcorn. Like every time. So which one do you like? Is that the main scent for you, or like which one do you I think is the most noticeable?
So before you said popcorn and when you first asked me that question, I was like,
Yeah.
I'm in between the sugar smell and the popcorn smell. I enjoy the smell of popcorn, but to be honest, you know what? Actually, I won't say at Disneyland that's my favorite smell because for me, my favorite popcorn smell is movie theater popcorn smell. Like in the movie theater, like that's the highest association of good popcorn that I can come up with in my mind. So I think I associate that's not to say I don't enjoy the smell of popcorn because I am a popcorn fan. So it's part of my snack schedule of when when and how I get popcorn. But so like I mean I enjoy it, but I don't think that's the most overpowering like enjoyment of scents. But it's like that powdered sugar, not necessarily the churro, but like that sugary smell of just like like they're pumping.
Like the waffle cone, I think over by the ice cream shop. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like it's stronger with like a waffle cone flavor, and then as you kind of like go and you're going into different areas, you start to smell like more of that like sugary scent. So I would say I that's my favorite scent that's getting pumped in. And not to say I don't enjoy the popcorn scent too, but I would say that's probably like what resonates. Like the park smells like a churro.
Yeah.
Which I love the smell of churros, like, I mean, I enjoy a good churro every once in a while, but like I've mentioned before, I'm not like churros are just like, they're great, like, when I have them, but I'm not necessarily craving them, but that smell though, like because you can associate with the beignets, you can associate with, like, really any sugary thing that they have.
Yeah, it hits a wider margin. So going back to the cast members like really getting in the role, because it made me think about like the funniest story that happened to me with Galaxy's Edge the first time I went on Rise of the Resistance.
Yeah, tell me.
So I'll go to that story first. So first time riding Rise of the Resistance, no need for spoilers, right? At this point, I think most people kind of have an idea. Either way, the section where they're interrogating you. Okay. So in the military, like very similar things like that happen when you first go to training. And the first time I went on it and they line you up and the guy starts interrogating you, I don't know what it was, but it flipped like a script in me that went right back to basic training mode where I was like up at attention, ready to be like, thinking, and like a little bit higher ranking in the military now, and I'm like, wait, I'm letting some kid talk to me like he's in charge of me. I'm like getting ready to be like, okay, whatever. And then my son was with me as well too, and my son loves to do he's like 14, I think it was at the time when it happened. He loves to do like staring contests. And I say like that him and the cast member did this like staring contest, like to the point where he let everybody else in and he's like, everybody else go, you stay. we were all in waiting at the ride, and I'm thinking like this guy is gonna like we're gonna keep pressing, and my son's gonna just still be there staring contesting with this cast member right now. I'm like, do I wait for him in the chamber? Like, what do I do? Eventually, like right before the doors were about to close, he let him in. That like leads me to think like I think especially Star Wars. I loved Star Wars growing up. I totally think like this generation gets into the Star Wars like the Galaxy's Edge theme. Those guys I think have probably the best theme job right now as far as cast members who can really like get in the role and really want to get into their role where like if like so that was going to be my next question, like where do you see the cast members who really get into their acting, their role, like kind of what you're talking about, where to me it was like Galaxy's Edge, like those guys, some of those guys go all out, where maybe a little bit lesser now is like some of the Tomorrowland ones, because again that area needs a little bit of work, like even Space Mountain, like they're dressed in the outfit, but there's not really much performance going on there. It's kind of what you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, I would say the areas that are more explicitly themed are probably easier, right? So like Galaxy's Edge, for example, if you're, on Rise of the Resistance, it's an immersive ride to begin with. So part of that is that they are actually playing that character versus just like someone in there. But also like workers are like they're talking to you as if like you're actually there, right? Like you're in Star Wars. The best and the most immersive and the funnest that I think are the stormtroopers.
Oh yes.
Have you ever been interrogated by a stormtrooper? I have.
Oh, have you? I have not.
I've been interrogated, and I always tell people like, even on Rise of the Resistance, I told my friends, I said, just don't make eye contact, just like be calm because then if like you make eye contact, they're gonna target you and they're gonna harass you. And they're like, it's gonna be like so uncomfortable, but also cool. But like one of my friends, like, no, I want them to interact with me.
I didn't get interrogated by the stormtroopers, but I got interrogated. It's a character from it's the female character from the Boba Fett show, the girl who voiced Mulan. I can't like it. The name is dropping on me, but it was awkward because I thought it was just another person trying to talk to me, and like she's doing this whole interrogation, like asking me questions, and me and my son are kind of like looking at each other. We're like, I don't know what's going on until like later on we saw Boba Fett also walking around as well, and we're like, oh, that's who that was. Like I thought it was just some random Joe Schmo just walking up to me at like trying to get like I'm like they got super into the character because in Star Wars area, Galaxy's Edge, there are fans who will dress up like their favorite Star Wars characters when they're there, or at least like the robes and stuff. But it just looked like a plain person dressed up in Star Wars stuff trying to interrogate. And I'm like, the stormtroopers, the stormtroopers talking to you, like clear as day.
She could have just been really good at cosplay, which some people are, because you don't know sometimes. Sometimes you don't know if like, are you just a really well dressed Flynn Rider, or are you like the Disney Flynn Rider?
Yeah. The Disney Flynn Rider. Show him the smolders.
That happened to me. I was like so confused for a second. I'm a fan of Flynn Rider. Who is it?
What about the Marvel ones too? Because that's another area like I would think they could get. That's where I think it's kind of underperformed. Like some of the Captain Americas and them, they do a decent job, but like where Star Wars, like any one of them could get in that role. Really, and like you to your point, it is a easy place to get into that role. But Marvel kind of, I would have thought would be the same.
Okay, so I do now have thoughts on this. Didn't think about it until you brought it up. So, in all fairness, we've really focused a lot of Disney Magic on Disneyland. Also transfers well, like Magic Kingdom kind of thing. Versus like DCA, which is a different feel. And that's not to say like it's not still, but I don't think their point is magical. That's not to say like Disney magic doesn't exist. So, I mean, I'll say like we can focus a lot more on like the Disneyland part of things, and that might be part of it. I think a lot of it too, because what I'm hearing from you is that your experience is that they're not as immersive in Avengers Campus as they are like Galaxy's Edge. Well, I think Galaxy's Edge was like initially like, made to be so immersive and like separated. That's part of it. It might be easier, but also Avengers Campus opened after COVID. And a lot of the characters are like, because they had like the character show, which is like happens on the top part of the like their like Avengers campus is really what it is. That's their campus. Like in the movies, like it's their campus, right?
Oh, I thought the whole area was just called Avengers. I'm like the building.
It is, but I'm saying in the movie, like that's their like it's like, oh yeah, we're on the campus, right? Isn't that right? I'm pretty sure that's right.
No, you're right.
Someone at me.
It's the campus. Okay.
Well, yeah, but, okay, like, their headquartered building, whatever, we'll call it that, so just for reference point.
Where the performance happens.
Yeah, so they're all performing, like, very separated, and then they have, like, different shows, like, they have the Doctor Strange show, and they have the Spider-Man show, so they're in the middle of, like, performance versus, like, roaming around and walking around in the same way as you have the stormtroopers walking
Yep.
around, and then I know that for a while, a lot of the cast members were, like, behind a rope when you wanted to do, like, that interaction, and that's kinda how it started with them, and it's there's I don't know that I would say that I've seen a lot of characters walking around to begin with to make that, like, comparison of them being, like, more interactive or less interactive, and I think part of that is because they just have so many different performances that are themed with the campus, like, when they had Secret Invasion, like, they had, like, a small little, like, Secret Invasion themed, like, performance, and they always have the Doctor Strange performance as well as the Spider-Man one, and the one with, like, the Avengers.
Yeah, they're walking around now, actually. So that is something I've noticed as a reason. Like Loki was walking around the other day. Captain America will walk around. The Guardians of the Galaxy folks will be outside of Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah, they're usually doing their dance off.
Yeah, but like where I was going, like outside of the characters and kind of like segueing into like where we're going with like California Adventure, where obviously you have that magic at Disneyland, but part of the California Adventure problem is somewhat of an identity. It's since its opening has like an identity crisis a little bit, where not as like directly like when you're in each area, like Marvel Campus, obviously directly themed. The Hollywood area, a little bit directly themed, but still lacking an identity because you got monsters now thrown over there. Big Bear area, what do we call that? By Soren and all that. Like the where Grizzly River Run and all that is like, outdoorsy themed, but very limited capability. And then same like Pixar Pier, not as much as like a lot like kind of what you were saying is like Galaxy's Edge and like Tomorrowland, Fantasyland. Those have like a direct theme, like you can really bite into your role there. Where you go to California Adventure, and I don't think you have as much direct immersiveness. Where like even when you're on Pixar Pier, the whole pier, yeah, it's Pixar Pier, but even certain segments of it, like you got Incredibles there, but then right next to it now you're going into like carnival game rides type thing. So then they got to act like carnival game hosts. I'm sure they have an actual name for that. And then even a slightly further down, now you got to go to Goofy Sky School. That's like a whole nother small segment, and that's its own little thing. Like there, it's benefit to the cast members. Little bit of identity crisis, I think, is why you don't see as like true theming there. Each section is kind of like flame, flailing on its own.
I actually don't agree with that.
No,
No. I'm sure there's some truth to it, and, like, yes, I can see those points, and I agree to a certain extent. I mean, I will say, like, Fisherman's Wharf, like, that area, that probably is definitely I'm sure they're figuring things out because the evolution of the park versus, like, when Disneyland was built, it was already built as it is now, other than the addition of, like, Galaxy's Edge. That was already in the game plan of, like, this is what it's gonna look like. Here's Main Street, here's, like, the center of the park and the castle, which is the focal point. Right? And then you have Fantasyland over here, you have Tomorrowland. Like that was already kind of mapped out. And of course, we have the addition of Galaxy's Edge to the back. And what's really cool is that it's its own separate thing. Like on certain rides, you can kind of see that it's there, like the top part, but you don't even know that it's there until you go into it. And even like on your journey into it, you don't even know it's there until you're there, which I think is probably the coolest thing about how they've set that up. And that might have been on accident, but it's cool nonetheless. And then you have like California Adventure, which I mean, it's an adventure park, right? It's supposed to be different, and it started as one thing, and then over the years has been evolving, and you're changing different sections. So I think part of it is that this section has always kind of been here, and it's operated in this way, and now you're adding these things. And so yes, some things might feel a little random, which like obviously like Ariel's Grotto is like kind of random in California Adventure, and like Goofy's Sky School, like kind of the same, right? And then you have like right when you walk in with like Buena Vista Street in Hollywood, and it's that Hollywood feel. I think that part's like the coolest part, and I think different parts of the park feel very different. But you could say the same thing about Disneyland when you're in the different areas. When you go into Adventures Campus, like that's its own like immersive like section and area, which is cool. So like I think they're trying, and that's why they did the whole remodel with like San Francisco. Is that what
San,
it's called?
San Francisco, yeah.
Yeah, that, and it kind of plays off of that, like, Pixar feel, and then, like, I mean, I feel like I love Pixar because it's like it's a pier, and I grew up going to, like, Coney Island, and so, like, you have all the, like, the carnival type of rides, and, like, you have the roller coaster, but then you also have, like, even, like, the jellyfish, like, up and down one, whatever that is, and, like, the swings, and it, like, feels like you're at a carnival on a pier, right? Like, or, like, Santa Monica Pier kinda thing, and that whole yes, it's Pixar themed too, so they're all, like, Pixar themed things, but it, like, you feel like and the Ferris wheel, right? The Ferris wheel that we, like, think is death, and I don't know who enjoys that Ferris wheel.
How? Why? Who thought of that?
But also that, like, pier feeling that, like, it feels like you're at, like, a pier carnival. So I think they do a good job with it. So I don't necessarily feel like I wouldn't go as far as to say that there is this big, like, they don't know what they're doing identity crisis. I will say there are things that are random, but that is just a result, I think, of evolving the park over the years from where it initially started. Versus, like, with Disneyland, like, you're just kind of enhancing things and maybe revamping things, like, with Tiana Ride, and then turning the restaurant into Tiana's Corner, like, making those additions, which are actually in theme with that area than less.
Yeah. Which so they are doing a good job improving where I guess where I was saying with the where the Disney magic was lacking in California Adventure, like the initial build, because it wasn't direct. Like they're putting together the theme of our week this week, Jekyll and hiding it. They are taking a very unthought plan because when they had originally opened up California Adventure, that pier area was supposed to be like you were going to Santa Monica Pier, and they're doing a good job putting the Disney intellectual property on it. And it's like San Francisco. I love the San Francisco area now. One of the things that hurt me a lot when they redid California Adventure is like when you first walked in the park, you saw the Golden Gate Bridge. Like that was super cool. And then like I came back years later, and then it was gone. And like, what happened to it? And the fact that that's back again,
They read your survey.
they read it. They brought it back.
Great beignets and all.
uh Fill those surveys out, people. It really enhances the park, i.e., what just happened. um but they are doing a good job. Whereas I guess I was going was like where California Adventure kind of failed in the beginning was like a lot of it wasn't planned, and that's where I think you lose some of the Disney magic when you go over there. They're doing a good job like rebranding it and bringing it back, but where you see like like they're putting paint on a pig, if you will. That's not the expression, but they're trying to fix something that was like broke from the beginning, and they've done a great job. I do love don't get me wrong, love the California Adventure Park. Probably one of my favorite parks now, especially with like how they brought back like the Pixar. I love the Pixar Pier. I just think you said it is a little bit of a scatter shoot when you go there, though. As you said, like you'll be walking, you're seeing all these amazing rides. You turn over, and there's King Triton on top of a building, and then Ariel's grotto.
Speaking of Disney magic, theming, it seems like, also contributes to the idea of Disney magic. And are you expecting to see the same or experience Disney magic in the same way that you do at Disneyland in California Adventure? We're just talking specifically about, like, the Disneyland parks because 'cause I'm sure there's and also there's plenty to say, which I think we should save it for a different episode when we really dissect this in the Disney World parks because I think there are some variations and differences that just wouldn't exist in California because there's 4 different parks. And this could also, transfer in the sense of, like, Magic Kingdom in Disney World. But are you expecting that same feel, and does that look the same? Because I didn't really go to DCA very much when I first started going to Disneyland continuously. It was kinda just like I stuck to Disneyland, and then I really only started going to DCA when I'd have friends meet me up and say, "Oh, like, meet me here," and I was like, "Oh, it's cool," but it wasn't the same experience I had at Disneyland. And I don't necessarily think that that's a good thing or a bad thing or that I necessarily expected it, but I also thought, like, it's you still know it's the Disney brand, you still feel that, like, that sense of, like, cast members and how they behave around you and, like, treat you, but, like, in a very different way because it's not necessarily, like, that same immersive experience in the parks, like, at Disneyland, which I guess is more kid focused, imagination focused than like, "Hey, here's this cool place to be that we've created," for more like the adult feel, which now I mean, also the kids love it too, and like Avengers Campus is really cool and stuff like that. So are you expecting it to be the same?
No, not from the different like, because even I'll even take my thoughts on, like, the Florida parks too, like, I'll tie it in here. Here's, like, when I'm going to Magic Kingdom, I don't expect the same magic that I would get if I was at Animal Kingdom.
Okay.
Like, 2 different, like, vibes and parks, and it's kind of this like Hollywood Studios in Florida has the same kind of identity issue that California Adventure does. I mean, the original idea of the park, ended up not really, I don't want to say failing, but they had to go back to work to it. And now you're seeing bits and pieces thrown together where one of the big things they talk about is like Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway. Why I like it so much better at Disneyland is that it like fits right into that Toontown theming. When you're at Hollywood Studios, it's in the China Theater,
Yeah, the Chinese theater.
and it's just rant like that's probably one of my. It's a kid ride.
It feels out of place is what you're saying.
Yeah, it feels out of place.
It is not a kid's ride. It is an amazing, awesome ride.
It is amazing. But my favorite part about that ride actually is the ride queue, and it's because of like all the stuff that they bring in there, and they really like part of the Disney magic again is like again he's bringing you into the world that he created,
Yes.
and then you see like especially some of us older folks that saw like some of the older cartoons, and I'm like, oh my god, like the Mickey's Christmas Tree one, like one of my favorite things growing to watch it up, and now like I see like in physical person being here's this tree with like little hidden messages of like from the production, the cartoon. But to like answer it, like no, I don't expect the same level between each parks because yeah, Disneyland, kind of designed more for children. California Adventure, a little bit of that like teenage to adult. So I mean, I'm not expecting you to like walk up and say like, oh, like hello princess or like the happy birthday, whatever or not.
I've gotten called princess at DCA. I ain't mad about it.
But I'm not expecting that though. I mean, I wouldn't be mad about it either. Would they do that if I had? We're gonna have to test this. If I wear a crown, will they say like "Hello, King" or whatever?
They might say your
There we go.
majesty or your highness or like, because they do that with like little boys who like go to Bippity Bobbity Boutique and have like Prince Philip like
They,
shield and stuff like that.
they called you sir, like they called you a knight. Yeah, when you got me to do Bibbidi, it was they did like the whole knighting thing.
So let's focus on those kinds of things because I think that's also Disney magic. So to wrap up like this topic of theming really is where that lack of continuity is the continuity of the theming, right? Which is like with Mickey's Runaway Railway, that idea that like in Disneyland it's in Toontown, and that makes sense, and it's part of the theme, and it's immersive, and that goes back to like the parks being immersive, and when a ride or certain sections just kind of feel like all out of place, and that's kind of the issue you have. It the magic is not quite as there, not because of all the other little things, but that there's lack of continuity in the theme where you don't feel immersed in the story. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, like where parts of California Adventure do great is like Cars Land,
Oh, yeah.
by far probably the best themed land out there. Like you feel like you are literally in Cars Land at Radiator Springs. Marvel Avengers Campus, I feel like I'm in Avengers Campus. The other areas do well. That's where kind of where I was getting was like I don't expect that with the like I don't think there's a way to truly fix the Pixar pier to get you like that where you're like in an immersive Disney story, but they have found a way to take a bastardized version of what they started with.
I don't know. I think it's fine because you have, like, Lamplight Lounge, and if you go in there and all the, like, drawings and things are, like, lines from Pixar movies and, like I think they do a good enough job. It might not be perfect, but I think they do a good enough job, at least with that. I think the reason you probably feel that way is because it's more open versus, like, Cars Land, like, you go into Cars Land and, like, you don't really, like, see or experience anything else, but, like, when you're in Pixar Pier, you see most of the park, and that might be where that lack of continuity in the theme is, because everything else is, like, Pixar themed.
If they get rid of Pixar Pal Around, I'll change my mind. This ride, this ride is dangerous.
Fill out that survey, why don't you? Let's park hop. Let's park hop from DCA back to Disneyland. So one of my we talked about how it's all the little things, right? So we talked about the big things, right? Like cast members and like the cleanliness of the park and the theming that really create that Disney magic. Some of the small and we talked a little about the smells, which I think is kind of a small thing too. But I mean, there is themed music and, like, I love just being in Main Street, and it's just that, like, light, like, carnival music, like, the music on the carousel, which is one of my favorite rides, and, like but and you go into Adventureland, the sounds that are playing on the speakers, like, is different, and, like, you go into Frontierland, and it's different, and you go near, like, the Haunted Mansion, and you hear that music, and, obviously, Galaxy's Edge is different sounds, I love the usage of the sounds and how they just incorporate, like, the different sounds along with the smells, and, like, because even when you go into certain areas, like, the smell of that area is different, not in like a, "Oh, it's smelly here," but, like, you smell the water when you're on, like, the, Rivers of America, and when you're in Tomorrowland, like, I don't really and we can't really talk about Tomorrowland because it's kinda just that needs a revamp. It needs a slight revamp, which, like, a little bit of extra theming, which, like, it's like, dude, put some, like, AI stuff in there if you're really wanting to use that. Uh, but yeah, but, like, Fantasyland, like, oh, I love that's, like, my favorite because, like, all the kids are just having such a good time. So, yeah, I think there's just so much little things, like, how the cast members interact with you, but, like, I love little things, like, one of my favorite things to do is get pixie dust. So if you don't know what this is, you can go to the Bippity Boppity Boutique, and you can, like, go in there and just you can ask them, "Can I get pixie dust?" And so they'll take you outside and, like, you close your eyes, and they sprinkle you with pixie dust.
The fairy godmother goes outside with not just anybody, a fairy godmother goes out.
Well, it's not like the full fairy godmother, but, like, the assistant.
Oh,
It's just such a fun experience, like, it's super cute for kids to do it. I mean, I love glitter, so I have no problem, but it's, like, part of that, like, okay, like, close your eyes, like, make a wish, and then, like, sprinkle you with pixie dust, and it, like, again, brings you into the story, and then, I mean, I just love walking around with pixie dust all over myself. But it, like, reopens your imagination, right? Because like, what are you doing? You're sitting and you're like, "Oh, this is pix" I'm not getting sprinkled with glitter. I'm getting sprinkled with pixie dust. Like, back to your point about how even the cast members, like, have certain terminology they learn, it's just the way things are talked about, like, in the park that's just fully immersive. And again, small details like that, like, just fun things like that where, like, they call you princess or they call you knight or whatever, like, I don't know, I'm all about that stuff. What are and in addition to pixie dust, let's talk about how genius it is to sell those bubble machines because number 1, smart business move. You're making a profit, okay, right? You're making a profit because, like, you're selling these bubble machines, which, by the way, if there's any suggestion to the bubble machines where there's, like, a little bit of enhancement, it's like there is very little bubble soap in those things. I'll say that. Ryan disagrees because he hates bubbles.
I'm holding my comments.
I love me some bubbles. But I think it's one of those things that, like, the fact like, when you're walking in the park and there's just bubbles everywhere and you're walking into the, like, the stream of bubbles, it's just like that magical kid feeling, right? Like, when you're a kid and it's like you're blowing bubbles and there's just something so magical about bubbles, okay? And so you get your Pixis and then there's bubbles, and what's even better is, like, it's not just like they have a bubble machine that's, like, throwing bubbles all over the park to give it this feel, but it's like it's an inadvertent result of, like, these kids with their bubble machines, like, hitting the button and, like, whether it's their Little Mermaid or Frozen or Mickey Mouse hands or whatever bubble maker, and, I mean, it's great for Disneyland because 'cause they're making a profit off of this, okay, selling these things. And the kids are having fun, and yes, they're expensive for sure. But yet kids have them all the time. And they're having a blast, like, and they're very excited. And then the bubbles are just all over the park, and as you're walking down Main Street or in whatever area, there's just bubbles everywhere. And I just think that adds to the magic. And Ryan disagrees with me 100% on this, but I just think it is one of the most magical things is bubbles and pixie dust and great smells.
Dads, if your daughters get pixie dust, you will be finding pixie dust in your cars for months to come. Heads up. I no, I won't go too far into the bubble machine. Mm-mm. I gotta swat every bubble I see, and then I'm walking in bubbles constantly, and all you see is a grown man just swatting bubbles all day.
Why are you swatting the bubbles?
They're in my way.
They're bubbles.
It's annoying.
They like literally that's soap. It's soap water. They pop. And if they land on you, it's like they land on you and they pop.
I have a theory. I wonder if it helps actually keep the like the air cool, like, kinda like the misters do when they spraying the misters out, like the constant bubbles being everywhere is just adding moisture to the air, I wonder. But the tiny details you were bringing up, tiny details is Imagineers. Something I love watching is like how they like certain areas of the park they came to develop. Like they don't just it's not just a thought in their mind. Like they will actually go out and research these areas. Like they'll go to like the jungle theme. They will go find a jungle somewhere and take note of every tiny little detail. Like you said, the little sounds that you're hearing, like the crickets, down to like the tiniest detail. They will make these notes and then they do their best to, and they do a fantastic job, like recreating the little things like Galaxy's Edge. I don't know if you've ever seen, if you're, big enough on Star Wars, but like they literally have like the R2D2 tracks like in the print in the mud. They have like little C3PO,
The footprints, the tracks, yeah.
like they go to the littlest detail. And I think there was something I was reading, like if you follow some of these trails, like it takes you somewhere, and there's something about it. The fact that they go that far into their theming of areas to where like they spend months of research on it, like so they know, like I said, when you walk into a land, like it smells different everywhere you go, not just the foods, but like I said, the water will smell different, the sound you're hearing, not just the music. You're like one of my favorite, like when you're walking late at night going through Adventureland and you're hearing like the little crickets go. It's like I know there's no crickets around. There's just it's in there. And it's just part of like you hear like the chirping and everything. You'll hear like little random birds you think could be real birds, could be fake birds. And then there's that tree there too that they made like the little, not the elf or the troll house. It's the like the little pixie house that's in like the tree. Have you ever seen that? Yeah. Like the fact that they kept that there, but like they go that far into imagining like when they do their parks that they think of like the tiniest little detail, not just like the big picture. Because again, you could see big picture. I know that there's going to be bamboo trees. They like eat even the trees. Like they go find the local tree that it's not just like the palm trees. They will go find like a local species in the jungle. They bring in bamboo. They'll bring in whatever, like in your Big Thunder Mountain, you're bringing certain pines and maples like actually match where you would be, so it doesn't feel out of place. And then the fact that they basically design things to make you look at what they want you to look at and not see what you want to see. So something I saw the other day, and I don't know, maybe if I sent this to you, the tree that hides the Matterhorn in like the Pirates of the Caribbean, the French Quarter. Have I seen that? There's like a tree that is specifically grown and shaped to hide the Matterhorn from all angles, so you can't see the Matterhorn while you're in the French Quarter.
I didn't know that. I mean, I'm not surprised that that's on purpose.
When they think about it, they design it so they're intentionally getting your eyes to grab at one thing while unfocusing at another. And another thing I saw the other day too is pretty cool image, was seeing if you could pick out like it's a large building that's standing in Disney somewhere, and you see all the other stuff around it, and like it was a wife and her husband like conversing, and he asked his wife to point out where the building was, and she's like, "There's no building," until like he physically had to like point on the finger and be like, building right there. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But they hide like these large structures so well too. All goes into that Disney magic. It's the sights, sense, sounds, and the cast members. It's all a show and scene.
I feel like I mean, hit most of these topics in a small way that we could probably do spin-offs of each of these things in like a really in-depth conversation, which I would never mind. I mean, I could, I could talk all day just about the Indiana Jones ride and like the detail in that line queue and like on that ride. It's just, I mean, to your point, like there's just such a good job.
Did you know? Did you know the stoplights on the back of the cars in Indiana Jones say "stop" on it?
No,
No, somebody showed me this the other day. Like they're like, all the years I've ridden this ride, hundreds of times, on the back of the vehicle, stop.
things that don't matter or like shouldn't matter. Like it wouldn't matter if that was there or not, right? It's like that's what sets it apart is that like it's not a necessary function and like it's a nice to have, but it's even cooler that it does that because it's like I wouldn't even notice the lights were going off And would you need to? No. Like I will say I do notice like when the lights flicker when you're like in the cave and that's really cool. But again, it's like would you still have a it will look really well themed regardless of having those little details, but those details enhance the experience so much more that number 1, you don't feel like you're in line as long as you're in line if you're like paying attention to however immersive that ride is. And some rides are more immersive than others, of course, specifically talking about Indiana Jones.
But they do such a good job at like the little details to the point where they've actually made the hidden Mickeys.
Yes.
The fact that they've done such a good job with the details that they've made that like a point for like typical park goers or more frequent park goers to go is like now it's a whole thing. It's like go find the hidden Mickeys, and they're like it's part of your ride experience now. Like in the shows, like people are like on the lookout, like they're trying so hard to find the hidden Mickeys now, and you're still not noticing some of the, even the smaller details. Like where's Waldo, but it's Mickey now, and that's a whole thing, and it's been happening for years.
I think if we can culminate what Disney magic is their ability to properly theme the entire experience utilizing the many details, right? We've talked about some things, but I think that's a conclusion I came to as we're like discuss like based on the topics we're discussing of like what really stands out to us because it all comes back to theming, right? Like the pixie dust is part of the theme of being in Fantasyland and Tinkerbell and throw some pixie dust on it and all that stuff. And the details in Indiana Jones of like what they're doing, the research that they're doing and all these it comes down to like it's theming and like the snacks.
Theming, yeah, theming down to the tiniest detail, not just what you're seeing, but what you're hearing, smelling, how people are acting, down to the tiniest detail.
Yeah. Even the food you eat, it's all themed food. Not every single thing.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
90% of all the things, like, even when you order them are themed in one way or the other, like and obviously, we're gonna dig into a lot of these snacks when we keep diving into snack episodes because that's my favorite. But, Mickey-shaped things are a thing, right? Mickey-shaped snacks, like, people get excited. Y and by the way, there are certain pretzels you can get just that are just regular pretzels, like, when they have, like, their different like, when they're testing out, like, the sugar pretzel or they're testing out different pretzels. Like, what do you wanna go for? You wanna go for the Mickey pretzel. 'Cause it's a Mickey pretzel or like the Mickey ice cream bar versus just a regular ice cream bar or like I mean, and we've already talked about Mickey shaped beignets because I mean, genius. Like if you're gonna make beignets, you might as well make them Mickey shaped.
Mickey shaped macaroons, Mickey shaped waffles.
Yes, yes. Except that the Mickey macaroon at Jolly Holiday is like one of my favorite ones. But it is ginormous. It is like it's so huge because it's a giant macaroon and then it's two regular sized macaroons is the ear. Like, so it's like it's a Mickey Mouse. But yeah, like all the snacks will have that incorporated in them. Not like every single thing is Mickey shaped, but there's so many different like Mickey shaped waffles or pancakes. Like if you get to the parks early enough for places that have breakfast options, but not just like Mickey themed things. Like even like certain areas of the park, their snacks are themed for that area. Like if you go to Be Our Guest, one of the dessert snacks they have is called the gray stuff. Have you ever had it?
Yeah,
I love the gray okay, we'll talk more about the gray stuff, but, like, also, if you're gonna have gray stuff, share it with someone because it's too decadent, and
uh-huh, yep, mhm.
the fact that, like, they themed it and it's, like, this snack and it's called the gray stuff, and, like, just different areas when you go, like, just the food alone or the snacks
The snacks.
more so than anything are themed to the park and themed to, like, Disney whatever, and it's so fun. I don't know. I think it's fun, and who doesn't like a Mickey shaped whatever?
Yep, and I think, a topic for hopefully a future episode is the Pixar Pier no, Pixar Place Hotel, and what I think will now be one of the better resorts there at Disneyland since they did retheme. Just some of the photos and the imaging I see. I have not yet walked over there, but that's why I not really want to talk about it too much right now. But bringing back like the hotel it was before, kind of standard, really didn't stick out. Now, when I'm walking to Disneyland through the downtown Disney area, and I see that tower standing there with like the colors and the lamp and the marquee, makes me want to stay there now. Like I'm even thinking about doing that for a birthday or something.
Yeah, it's the little details in the theming. That's what it is. That's what Disney magic is. I think our whole, hour or whatever that we're talking about Disney magic and all the things, it all culminates to a high attention to detail in their theming. And that's what they're doing.
So let us know, folks, if you have other ideas on what you think really brings out the Disney magic. If you have stories on your great experiences with the Disney magic, let us know on our social medias. Direct message us there, and let's keep it going. Let's hear what you have to say.
I mean, I think there's so much we could talk about when it comes to like the things that make it magical. Like, I mean, even one of my favorite spots is the wishing well on the side of Sleeping Beauty's castle.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, I like if you're looking at the castle directly in the front, like on Main Street, it'll be on the right side, but on that side bridge, and then they have like the Snow White like fountain. I mean, I guess like it's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, like waterfall kind of thing. And it's like one of my favorite spots. Like I'll go get a snack and I'll just like sit there for like 15-20 minutes. Like it's just one of my favorite spots. Like they have this wishing well, and what's really cool again, going back to like the detail of the theme. So every like I don't know 15 minutes or so, the fountain like you'll hear it, and it's like the sleeping beauty, like, the, ah, like whatever, and it like goes and like the fish start moving and like water spouts out like, and it happens like I think it's like every 15 minutes. So one time I'm standing next to the wishing well, and there's echo. They have a speaker in there, and so like she's like you think it's like okay like she's singing it, and then it echoes out of the well.
I'm gonna have to stop by this. It's been a minute.
It's so cool. I mean, I just thought it was cool one time when I was walking by, and then it's like, oh, all of a sudden it's like, oh, the sound goes on, and it's like her singing into the well, like in that scene in the Snow White movie where she's like singing into the well. So that's basically like the audio. And so I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. And like the fish start floating around and like they spit water. And I'm like, oh, that's so cool. And I just thought that was the coolest thing. And then like, and I'd done it, like I'd gone there like a ton of times and I just like, would hear it. And one time I was standing next to the wishing well. And I was like, "Wait a minute." And I'm like, it's echoing, like, she'll say something and then it echoes out of the wishing well too, like, just like, like in the movie when she's, like, singing into it and it echoes out. And I'm like, "Unnecessary," right? Like, no one would know that was missing. And that I think that's the coolest part is, like, those little things that, like, are so inconsequential, but just add to that experience, which is why you could never get bored in the parks. Which is why you could go a million times and never get bored or feel like, "Oh, I've gone on all these rides." Like, people ask me all the time, they're like, "Well, like, do you ever get bored going to Disneyland so much? Like, you've been on all the rides. Like, what do you do? Just, like, go on all the rides a bunch of times? Like, what do you do?" And I was like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "You can never." I've never had the same experience at Disneyland. I've always experienced something new every single time I've gone. Whether it's like I tried a new snack or it's like there's some seasonal thing, or I'm like, okay, I do the regular things and it offers an opportunity to be like, what am I gonna do now? It's like exploring an area of the park that I never really explored before or noticing something I never really explored. And again, there's different times of year where they're incorporating like themed things and seasonal things and different things that you can try. But even just like the park on its own, and like doing like I'd never been on a I'd never gone on, like, one of those, like, the horse-drawn, like, the horse, transportations. I did it for the first time, like, a few months ago. Never done it before, and I got it, like, a million times. I was like, "Oh, that would be cool." And there's, like, all this other, like, Disneyland transportation, like, down Main Street that I've never done still. And so just there's always something to do, and it's just I don't know, it's just that's part of the best part and why it's so magical is that you can go a million times and not have done everything or seen everything.
Yeah. I don't think I can say this about any other brand out there, but one of the things like my family and I love to do, and this applies to Florida, you can say all you want, like, go to all the parks. I think that some of the most fun I've had at a Disney resort is hotel hopping at Disney World and going to each hotel resort, not like the cheaper ones, but I mean like the really themed out ones, and like just going from hotel, like spending a whole day going from hotel to hotel and like really getting to see like the vibe of it. Like Animal Kingdom Lodge, I've stayed there. Like not even just in the rooms, but there's an area of like the lobby where you can walk outside and then be in the savannah and like have wild animals just within not arms length. They obviously can't touch them, but like there are just like there's a giraffe that's walking right up to you right there. And then same thing like Polynesian, and they're also always changing too. So like they're adding their theme to their hotel as well, and they have like the seasonal stuff as well that they do. I tell you, like if you want to like do a Disney trip and you got 4 days and you want to like have a budget day where you're not spending a bunch of money, I recommend just going to Disney Springs where all the buses are and just picking hotels and then hotel hopping. Like go get food at a restaurant or like a snack that they have there. Like wintertime, they have like the gingerbread cookies, or not even just the gingerbread. They have like different cookies, and it'll be themed like to the hotel. So like you're at the Wilderness Lodge, and it'll be, for example, like a like a buffalo themed or something like that. You go to the Animal Kingdom, you'll get like a giraffe snickerdoodle. So like even they'll even, like I said, the tiniest little detail, even in the hotels, they add that theme, which makes it that much more enjoyable. And that's what I'm saying. You can't get that, I don't think, at any other resort out there or brand Disney, like theme brand out there. Disney is really the only one I've seen that does it to the point where they do it.
Like, it's just basically it's so perfected. It's crazy, crazy to me. And yeah, sometimes I get in my, like, cynical, like, oh, they messed up on this." Like, "Oh, this could be better."
But it's because they have such a high standard, though. That's why. It wasn't Mickey shape.
Yeah, like, oh, they had great beignets.
Damn it, grape. Damn it, grape.
But yeah, I really appreciate the and I'm a detail-oriented person too. So part of that appreciation is that, like, I'm hyper attentive to detail, so I notice those little things, and, like, I mean, clearly not enough of them because there are things I'm still learning. I'm like, "I didn't know that was there, like, I didn't see that." Because they do s because it's so to the T, to the fact of, like, even the littlest, tiniest, like, animal sound in a certain area that is in the background, or, the way they theme the different areas of the park, or the smells that you might not notice, or you're just going from one place to the other, and then, like, you sit and you notice the music, you're like, "Oh, I didn't realize this music was playing." And it's just it's so cool, and it's such an experience with every aspect, right? Not just inside the parks, but around the parks. Literally, I drive into, like, the Disney park area, and, like, you're near Disneyland. You always know when you're close. Like, you might not see the park, you might not see, like, where the parking structure is, but you know because there's this huge shift from, like, any other part of Orange County that you're driving in, or even Anaheim, that you start driving into, and you're like, "I am now in the Disney district." The lamp posts, the trees, everything. The park bench, like, the bus benches even are different. Like, you're like, "Oh, I'm now entering, like, the Disney property in a sense," right? And so, like, and, like, the hotels and everything is just, like, you're in a different place. And that's the coolest part. I mean, again, Disney Magic in one summary is attention to detail and extreme theming. And that means a lot of things. And I think we will probably definitely have to do some more episodes on some of these specific things, because we could talk all day about, like, I mean, we could do some research on, like, the science of, like, how they pump the sense in and whatever. But, like, just there's so many things that you could say, "Oh my gosh, here's how I've experienced Disney Magic," and, like, here's another one of those, and that stuff will come up inadvertently, like, in the other topics that we have, because I think one of them that we're definitely gonna get into is, the entertainment. I think that's another aspect of how they really create that magical experience, is the type of entertainment, and we'll have a whole episode that just dives right into entertainment, and what kind of entertainment, all this stuff, like the fireworks, like just what kind of entertainment, how they incorporate the entertainment into the parks, all that stuff, the theming of it, like that too creates that magical experience. You're part of that show, you're part of the production, not just like, oh, I'm going to watch this show. The way the characters interact, just so many things. And as we get into those topics, like that will kind of be the examples of the Disney magic that we're talking about.
Exit stage left.
Are you telling me that we need to wrap this up?
Partially.
This conversation will be continued. Say that because I think there's a million directions I could take this with, like, talking about some other topics when it comes to Disney Magic, but I think they're topics on their own that we're gonna naturally get into on other episodes. And we will have more episodes where we talk about specific Disney Magic, which you guys can help us out with by letting us know what experiences, like Ryan said earlier, that come to your mind about how you've experienced Disney magic. So anything that you can think of in the realm of Disney magic or any other topics as well. Make sure that you send those topic suggestions to us by DMing us on Magic Key Chats at our Instagram or emailing us at magickeychats@gmail.com. So be part of the conversation. Tell us what you want to hear us talk about, what topics you want us to get more into when it comes to Disney magic or all things. And of course, make sure to subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss another fresh episode. And if you're not already, follow us on our Instagram at Magic Key Chats. And again, topic suggestions, joining in on the conversation, DM us or send us an email. Thanks for joining us on Magic Key Chats. And until next time, may all your dreams come true.
Thanks for stopping by. Yuck.